Hey everybody, it's Aunt Jessica. So we have new news. So the National Association for College Athletics has released their new transgender policy, which is a win for women. And I'm super happy about this. And we can only hope that the NCAA will follow suit. And hopefully with Riley Gaines and the other 16 other women who are suing the NCAA, we can get this handled and women can have their own sports back. Wouldn't that be great? Imagine that. So I wanted to do a reaction video because there's a person that a lot of you guys know I really do not like, and I am not trying to act like a total meanie today, but this person drives me crazy. A lot of you guys have seen me on Jubilee on the podcast, and yes, this person is the one and only Blossom. I don't like giving her any credit for anything really. And as we're gonna see in this video, she likes to talk in circles in order to get her point across. And I might say this again in the video, she'll talk you into circles to where you actually forgot what the original argument was in order for her to make her point and for you to just agree or relinquish your stance and submit to her views on everything. So let's hear what this genius has to say. And I would happily debate her one-on-one personally without a bunch of crew or a bunch of people dictating how the conversation went, because we all know that the Jubilee debate, I failed horribly because I don't believe in talking over people and I don't like shouting. So when it comes to an open forum like that, I'm probably not the best person for that job. I thought that, and I've gone over this before, you guys, I thought I did terrible on the Jubilee thing. I mean, I do get a lot of like praise for it, and I really appreciate that. You guys are so nice and so kind, and y'all know what my stance is, but they never brought the sports thing into that podcast, so I didn't get to shine, as I would say, on that. But so here's Blossom, who has blocked me on Instagram. I'm not allowed to comment on any of her videos, which I think she's lucky. I'm lucky. Maybe I would be banned if they let me say what I want to say on her videos. I'm only putting her on my channel because this woman makes me so angry, you guys. Oh, I don't like the way she talks down to people, and she likes to play the victim, and she actually uses one of my lines in this video that I use a lot. Unfortunately, I may have to stop, but because of her, like, this person is just insufferable, and we all know it, and we've all seen it. It's plain as day on the Jubilee video, as y'all know. So here is the one and only Blossom.
All right, y'all, in case y'all have been living under a rock, the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletes have effectively banned transgender women from its women's sports programs. Y'all know I already have thoughts, and I'm going to give you my trans liberal opinion.
Where I come from, that's called a win. Why I'm so proud of the NAIA is because they just went straight to the point, and they said that no matter what, if you were born a biological male, whether it was assigned at birth or recognized at birth or what it recorded at birth, you're a man and you compete in the men's division. That's it. Okay. So she's going to go on about the stipulations, and I can clear them up for you too, but I'll try and go with her so I can correct whatever she says that's incorrect.
All right, y'all. So for context, apparently this past Monday, they voted to pass this policy, but it's actually not in effect until August 1st. Now, according to these trifling folks, apparently anyone who has a biological sex of female at birth can participate in these sports. And they're defining biological sex as having distinguished characteristics that can be supported by a birth certificate or a signed affidavit. In my opinion, that makes no sense. Because when trans women typically change their documents, they can get a new birth certificate with the new gender marker on it.
Okay, she's not wrong about the fact that, like, I got my name changed legally, my driver's license, passport, everything. I had the opportunity to change my birth sex on my birth certificate. I could have done that, but I chose not to because I live in reality and I don't need to lie to anybody about my biological sex. So, but what she said is actually factually incorrect. Only biological women can compete in women's sports. There is an exception for a trans man. So a trans man is a biological woman who wants to transition to be a man, boy, and that would, it doesn't always require, we have what we call a social transition and a medical transition. So the rule is for female sports, if the trans man, biological woman, has transitioned but is not taking hormone replacement therapy, they may still compete in the women's division. If they are taking hormone replacement therapy, they can practice with the team, but they cannot compete outside of the school's property, and what that does is protects the biological women from biological women who are on steroids, basically. And I'm not saying steroids 100%, but they're taking synthetic testosterone, which is what bodybuilders take. I've gone over that before. How when a woman transitions, she's injecting synthetic testosterone into her system, and that's going to add strength, power, and that's not safe for the other females.
So basically, y'all are trying to play the Prussian Olympics by banning trans women and giving trans men a slight edge over trans women by dehumanizing their experience to play on the women's team to be able to participate.
Okay, so there you have it. She used my term. That I didn't coin it, but I use oppression Olympics a lot on Twitter. We go over this all the time. The woke, the liberals, the progressives, they want to be oppressed. They want to play the victim. They want to feel important and validated. I mean, I've used all these words ad nauseum, you guys, you know me. And for her to say that forcing trans men, a biological woman, I hate to have to say this all the time. Like, this is so silly, you guys. I can't believe I'm part of this community. Oh my God, so embarrassing. So she's claiming that they're dehumanizing a trans man, which is actually just a biological woman, by making that biological woman play with other females. They are a female. It's okay. And the reason why she says it's dehumanizing is because this generation of trans people think they are the biological sex that they are transitioning to. So somehow connect the dots, do the mental gymnastics, and you'll understand that that's dehumanizing to a biological woman who wants to be a guy but has to play on the women's team. Or you can just be honest and tell them, hey, you are now a doped athlete. You're taking aftermarket synthetic testosterone. That disqualifies you. In my opinion, they did the right thing too with the biological men can only play in men's sports. So that also keeps the trans man out of the men's division, which I don't think they would do very good anyway. Like a trans man, biological woman on steroids, I hate to call it that, but on testosterone, would be maybe able to run with some of the mediocre male athletes. The ones who seem to transition and think they can be with women, those are the ones who are dominating the women's division. So a woman on testosterone could probably maybe hold her own against an average man. And again, you guys, I know that sounds misogynistic, and you know I'm not. So God, I hate saying that. A doped up woman could barely hang with an average man. Like, I don't want that to sound misogynistic. I know it kind of does, but the NAIA protected the men's division. And in all honesty, I think they actually are protecting these biological women who are trans men from getting injured in the men's division, because let's face it, you can bulk up the muscles of a woman, but the bone structure is not that of a male and didn't go through puberty on testosterone. So, I mean, women could still get hurt seriously if they did allow these doped up female athletes to compete against men. Now, I hear stories, people argue with me all the time about this. Oh, this girl played football, she was a quarterback, or this girl was a kicker on a football team. Like, okay, those are outliers. Like, outliers exist in every sports category, in every walk of life. Like, and that's not who we're trying to take care of. We're trying to take care of the mass. It's not dehumanizing. That's stupid. And I'm going to flip the script. Blossom is playing the oppression Olympics by saying that they're dehumanizing trans men. They're not dehumanizing trans men. They're protecting women from getting injured by other women who might be on drugs. That's it. So to reiterate that, a trans man, biological woman, would still be allowed to practice and even do like intramural sports or team scrimmages, and that is in the rule book as needs to be designated on a case-by-case basis, and they leave that up to the actual facility, the schools, the trainers, and the coaches to make that decision whether this trans man, this biological woman on steroids, can practice with the actual females. In the bottom of fine print, they did release a disclaimer saying that there are two sports that they would allow transitioning of any type into the sports because it is a co-ed sports league, and that's competitive cheer and dance. So a trans woman or a trans man can compete in dance or competitive cheer because they don't have sex-based categories. So that's fine. That's great. That's more inclusion, and that's what the world wants, right?
Y'all know that's whack as hell, but okay. Because trans men are men. And as you can see, trans men in sports don't always get the same smoke as trans women in sports. And that's not to say that trans men don't encounter issues in sports. But we can have an honest conversation and admit that there's a heavy layer of misogyny there.
Nobody can have an honest conversation with you, Blossom, because you're a liar. You're the most disingenuous person I have ever met in my life. So this is a perfect example of Blossom talking in circles because she just said it would be misogynistic to not allow a trans man, biological woman on testosterone to compete in the women's division because trans men are men. So you just said you're being misogynistic against a biological woman because they identify as a man and you're not letting them compete in the women's division. Make that make sense. Oh my God, you guys, I'm so sorry. I know this is confusing and it's a pain in the ass. It's a lot of mental gymnastics. I wish this wasn't an issue. But what we're seeing is that the NAIA was more focused on actually the trans man and protecting women from doped up females playing with other women. So that's like two birds with one stone. So one, we're keeping the men out of the women's division. Two, we're keeping doped females out of the women's division in competition. And they can still practice and scrimmage and still participate in a lot of the sporting events and training. They said also practice, training, anything involved with the sports that's interschool, that's not related to competing outside of their school's district. So that's like I said, it's good. And I will give Blossom credit on one thing. She is like my kryptonite. Like when I get around her, my brain gets so overwhelmed with rage and anger. And she would love to hear me say that. I'm sure she would. But it actually inhibits my thought process and it doesn't allow me to articulate what I want to say because I'm so angry with her and just her disingenuous attitude. Like I said, the way she talks down to people, the way she talks over people, the way she is right. And there's no middle ground. There's no meeting her halfway. There's nothing like that with her. It's her way or the highway, which I kind of feel like that's me a little bit too. If it comes down to, men competing in women's sports, yeah, there's a big no. That's a big no. And, that shouldn't happen. And I'm going to take that hard line every time. But for her, it's ridiculous. She says everything is fake or I said she'll talk in circles until she gets around and around and around. By the time she's done talking, you have no idea what your point was that you're trying to make. And she's like, I win.
And I completely agree. And here's why. Transphobia in sports affects all women.
Okay, that talking point drives me crazy. And here's why. I've written several letters to my congresswoman, and the last one I wrote to Susie Lee, who represents me in the 3rd District of Nevada's Congress. And I wrote to her not to pass Bill SB 163. And you know what the answer she gave me was, well, if we don't allow trans women to compete, it will hurt all women. I hate this argument. And the only reason they say it hurts all women is because the government is in control of the college. And the Biden administration has put out letters and told all colleges, if you ban trans athletes from competing in the division they identify with, we will withhold your funding for your school. So of course it's going to harm all the athletes. Yes, that's taking away money from all of the athletes. So yeah, that harms women as well. So basically the government is using women in more ways than one. They're using them to exploit the colleges to make sure that they are inclusive and get the money they want. And they're also just abusing women, making them accept this trans inclusion bullshit, which we all know is exactly that. It's bullshit and it shouldn't be allowed in the first place. And now here's some more bullshit from Blossom C. Brown.
What will happen is more rigorous tests will have to be put out on women athletes to prove that they're not trans women.
Okay, so this is the other argument that I cannot stand. So a while ago, there was a high school track meet, I believe, and the parents on the opposing team saw a girl who was more of a tomboy. She had kind of a mannish build, a boyish figure, we'll say that. And the parents were like, "Hey, I think that's one of those trans athletes competing against my daughter, and I'm not okay with this. So we don't think that's a biological girl. How do we know? Is there any way we can test this?" And the progressives, the liberals went bananas on that. They were like, see, conservatives are pedophiles. They just want to adults checking girls' underwear for male genitalia. And that's a disingenuous talking point because, which is what Blossom is going after right here, saying that women will be under more scrutiny to prove that they're not a man, and again, it's sad that this has created such a mess everywhere. I can't believe we're where we are right now. It's very depressing. And to combat that argument that Blossom just made up, it's a cheek swab. It's a physical at the doctor's, which anybody who's competed in sports knows that when you sign up to play sports, you are required to provide a physical exam from your doctor that your body is healthy or physical issues that might prohibit you from playing or even endanger you if you do play via like a weak heart, bad lungs, like asthma, stuff like that. Like your doctor looks at you and gives you a physical. That's what physicals are for. And your primary care physician, your family doctor, is allowed to look at your child's genitalia. That's what you pay them for. And if that's not enough, like I said, it can be a cheek swab, simple DNA that is not an invasive scrutiny of women. That is just finding biological reality. That's all that is. I'm so sick of this. I can barely take any more Blossom. She is insufferable.
Just like recently, South Carolina coach Dawn Staley spoke to media during a press conference about the issue of trans women playing in sports. Now, to be clear, her response was everything. She says, quote, "I'm under the opinion of if you're a woman, you should play. If you consider yourself a woman and you want to play sports or vice versa, you should be able to play. That's my opinion."
Yeah, so I addressed this actually on Twitter as well. So yes, this national college women's basketball championship coach did get put on the spot by a probably white reporter. And I bring that up because we'll listen to Blossom here in just a second. But what Blossom said she agrees with is the woman's statement. Well, what she's not telling you, if you didn't hear this interview, I'll play it really quick so you can see the hesitation and the remorse that this coach Dawn Staley feels. She is one of the most accomplished female college basketball players to ever walk the face of the earth, you guys. She is an amazing athlete. And when the reporter asked her the question, do you think trans women should be included in women's sports? She pauses. She's like, oh my gosh. She takes a drink of water. She's like, I can't believe, she physically says, I can't believe you just put me on the spot with this question, as if to say, you, like, why did you do this to me? Why now? Why couldn't you just let me have my moment in the sun? My girls won the championship. And what infuriated us on this side of the court is that Dawn knew what she was saying was wrong because she couldn't bring herself to just come right out and say it. But she was towing the line. She did exactly what the NCAA told her to do, which is be inclusive. And she reluctantly said, yes, if you identify as a woman, you should be able to play on the women's team. We all know, and you could see right through her that that's not what she believes in here or here. And it's just pathetic that everybody had to jump on her. And she even says this in the interview. She's like, you guys know my inbox and my social media is going to be blown up after this now. And she's like, I want to thank you. And I could tell she was like, thank you like this, not like really thank you. So it's disgusting. Like, it's actually ruining lives of people who didn't want or have nothing to do with this lifestyle.
Dan Zakrzewski, Outkick coach, you just talked about, what a massive weekend this is obviously for women's basketball, women's sports in general. One of the major issues facing women's sports right now is the discussion topic about the inclusion of transgender athletes, biological males in women's sports. I was wondering if you would tell me your position on that issue.
Damn, you got deep on me, didn't you? I'm under the opinion of if you're a woman, you should play. If you consider yourself a woman and you want to play sports or vice versa, you should be able to play. That's my opinion. You want me to go deeper?
Do you think transgender women should be able to participate?
That's your question you want
basketball?
Me to ask. I mean, you want to ask, so I'll give you that. Yes. So now the barnstorm of people are going to flood my timeline and be a distraction to me on one of the biggest days of our game, and I'm okay with that. I really am.
And it's now encroaching on their lives, which, you guys, being trans, we never wanted this. We just wanted to live stealth as possible, under the radar. And I even said this on X today, that if I didn't feel it was super necessary to try and protect women's sports, I wouldn't even have a social media profile, you guys. I swear to you. Yes, I did when I was starting my transition, but I know that I've talked to other girls who have transitioned, and once they transition, they go off the grid. Like, that's what we want. I would be off the grid. I swear to you, I promise you, on everything I own, I would not be on social media if I had a choice. But I don't have a choice. Women need protection, and I want to stand up for them, and it's driving me crazy. So that's why I'm trying to be as vocal and as out there as possible to social media with Instagram, Facebook, X. I can't just sit idle and let this happen. This is bullshit. So, this talking point and Blossom drives me crazy.
Totally agree with her, and I thank her for that. But I have an issue. It's mighty interesting when non-Black people put Black women like her on the spot. It's a setup for her to be scrutinized two different ways. One, by the people who are transphobic and don't want trans women in sports. And two, had she given a completely different answer, banning trans women, she would have had a lot of Black queer and Black trans content creators coming for her. In my view, it is despicable to put a Black woman on the spot when, number one, you would not have asked any other coach that question. And I feel like this is what actually causes a rift in the Black community, but that's just my view. Because the reporter didn't have the same smoke for male coaches. And so, yes, this is politically charged, but we're watching this very closely.
You can watch it as close as you want. As a matter of fact, Blossom, I hope you do pay attention to every little nuance and every little detail that goes on here, because when trans women are completely banned from all competitions with women, I'm going to celebrate. I'm going to do a I told you so. And I would love to just shut it off, just turn off all my social media, close all my accounts. But I can't. You know why? Because now they're still letting women in prison. And I am super hopeful, you guys. I know some of you out there may be not conservative or not Republican or more liberal leaning, left leaning, whatever. If 2024 goes the way of the conservatives, and that's what it's going to take to get our country turned around and headed in the right direction, and then we can go another 4 years and see where we're at. And once we're headed in that direction, everybody's going to be a lot more chill. Like I said, we can all get along. We can all find a way. There's co-ed divisions. There's a lot of organizations that are starting this saying, as long as they started puberty blockers and hormone replacement therapy prior to puberty, they can play. And even that shouldn't be allowed, you guys. That's just wrong. The human body was meant to go through puberty at a certain time frame. That's when it needs to grow. That's when it's the most important that the body receives the nourishment, the hormones, the testosterone, the estrogen that it needs to grow and be a healthy human being. Puberty blockers are literally creating unhealthy human beings that are going to be a medical patient for the rest of their lives. So once we get this nonsense turned around or stopped, whatever you want to call it, hopefully things can get back to normal and women can feel safe in their sports and spaces again. That's all I really want, you guys. It drives me crazy. I have to even talk about this, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. I know this is a little bit dark and I didn't want to do this video because it's late Friday night. I just got off work. I know I look like hell. My face, I'm wearing a hoodie. Like, this is me at work. Sexy as all get out, right? Must be a fetish. And I hope you guys have a good weekend and we'll see you next time. Thanks.